So we turn then to an interesting poem called Checking Out My History, which is very interesting. The structure, again, using Smile, we're looking at, well, it's performance-based, first of all. This is much more likely to be watched, being read, than actually just you reading it to yourself, because there's a lot of character and life that comes through a certain way of reading it. There's no punctuation, obviously, which kind of controls the flow, again, for the performer, and moreover, it's a non-conformist attitude towards the grammar and punctuation conventions, which we normally expect with written word, and obviously that reflects the actual attitude of the person in the actual poem. They're going to obviously kind of stamp their own indelible mark on this. Here you've got the indented lines to make the lesson stand out. So obviously the lessons that were actually more important to him have a slant, the italic slant, obviously to make them show that they've got more importance, and also to make them stand out in terms of the reader's mind as they're going through it. So we can easily notice what is important to him. Again, then on the structure, we've got the irregular irregular structure and rhyme. So basically, it's a completely free verse the whole way through. Again, it's kind of a reflection on him just saying what actually needs to be said. And here we've got some internal rhyme, like we've got born, thorn, beacon, revolution, etc., etc., etc. It just shows there's some rhythm, this maybe gives us a sense of something building. But then the next one, there's nothing in terms of rhyme. So it's dream and stream do rhyme. So it's kind of slowly building certain elements again, like maybe there's something cohesive there, whereas here a lot of these aspects all rhyme. So maybe this has got the break in the rhyme because it's more irregular, or more it's maybe something different. Obviously that's for you to develop if you so wish. So we move on into the meanings of the poem. Well, first of all, it's about history and the control of information. There's a famous quote somewhere that says history is written by the victors. So basically you don't get to hear about the other elements in history that might have happened, but I think here this is more to do with control of information, or the display of information by a school board, because it sounds like it's an educational establishment that we're dealing with. That's the DEM that we keep hearing about. It's obviously about black history that we don't normally hear a lot about. For example, obviously many schools you have Black History Month, etc., which is highlighting some of the things that aren't really discussed within the normal curriculum, and again that's some of the things he's highlighting here. It'd be interesting actually to see if this poet had any ideas on the Black History Month, etc., etc., and if you did find something out about that, it might just inform your ideas of the poem, but I wouldn't actually quote too much at length about it, because you're not given much for context in the marks for this. The meaning again is about the school system, so you're actually looking at what they teach and what they don't teach, which is quite interesting, because I mean this one here, I mean that's kind of French history really, that's not British history. So if you're raised in a British school, then you wouldn't really know about it. Or is he talking about schools in the Caribbean, which is more than likely? Then maybe we'll take about it. But the cow who jumped over the moon, I don't know what that renders to, and that would actually be really interesting, seeing what cross-cultural varieties there are in similar nursery rhymes, etc. You've also got the idea in the issue of defining oneself. So basically, again, he talks about all them tell me, but them never tell me about. And then there's a thing he highlights, and at the end, of course, he says, now I'm checking out my own history, I'm carving out my identity. So obviously he's finding himself and developing. That's one of the other meanings there. So we've got the images. Now obviously the images, you've got all the historical images, and they're actually quite clear the whole way through, but then one of the things that you've actually got is this idea of the lost person searching, and that's kind of just comes through, even though it's never actually shown to us. We've got them tell me about, and the things that they don't tell me about, they're obviously in massive contrast. You've also got the images of the ridiculous lessons. I mean, here you've got the idea of the what he's taught is the cow jumped over the moon, and you've also got the dish that ran away with the spoon from the popular nursery rhyme. So you can see him kind of almost ridiculing that. An interesting idea to actually maybe develop is, well, was he taught all these things at the same time? And obviously, maybe that's what school's just supposed to give you, a bedrock of kind of creativity, and then perhaps a little bit of history, and then maybe you're supposed to go and do your own learning from there, which is what he does. So whether that's kind of something to question, whether he's taught all this at the same time, or whether he's remembering his education as one, etc., etc. It'll be interesting to it'll be an interesting tangent to take, but obviously not a tangent to take for too long. And you've got the image as well of powerful role models, obviously people he respects, etc. So obviously the names are actually out here, and obviously the people maybe he doesn't have as much time for, etc. We've also got in the language then the use of facts and stories. They're actually used quite a lot. So obviously dates like 1066, and then the whole the episode of this Caribbean history here. You've got in the language as well the repetition of dem and but, so it's basically kind of highlighting what he's up against almost, and then the but always shows that he was trying to do something more individual, more in keeping with his own identity and his own culture. So what's the poem about, or what can we actually start talking about? What effect does it have on the reader? Well, it makes the reader think about finding their own way in what they're actually doing. Oh, apologies, I missed one. Language as well. You've got the dialect to show selfhood and identity, obviously. So the way the is written, etc., and the way obviously dem and things like that are written, it shows a kind of ownership of language, and that kind of mirrors the ownership of history that the poem is all about, and obviously knowledge of learning and self. So the poem, what it makes you think about is finding our own way. What are we taught? What do we want to change? What do we want to go through? What kind of identity will we carve for ourselves? Obviously that's quite interesting when you look at celebrities who time and time again recast themselves as different people and different things. Interesting, really. I mean, you could take that on forever, actually. Just it says a lot about society. Excuse me for going into a daydream there. Basically, also it's about research, the idea that you can actually go and learn so much if you so choose, and you can go and find out all these things, especially with the modern technology available to us. You can find out anything, obviously. And obviously, maybe question our education. Was everything we were ever told true? I mean, was that true of what we're told at school? Was it true of what we're told by our parents? Was it true of what we're told by maybe religious teachers or scientific teachers, etc., that we have? And question education. So say for example in America, in a lot of states in America, there's always that idea where they teach creationism and not evolution, etc., and obviously you should ask whether is that right. Shouldn't we teach both, or should they only teach one, not the other, etc., etc.? What are the pitfalls and pros of that? So it's a really interesting, thought-provoking poem, which you can take a lot out of, and hopefully there's something in there that you can relate to.